OCD. Your speaker no your friend no Dr. Nelson Awuah Ankamah. Mpacho answer ne be start me pacho obi mbom paye man.
Me mpae Erade esro ehyia mu biemu umabunu ahyia mu a yebe tie ho asem yede wasafo ma ehya wunyame wonsa yede Dr. Nelson a obedi anim so ehya wunyame wonsa esre so bema dwumadi yi akoso na yenye mu nti ase yede abobra na nsembo ni wiase mu yeda wase adom ni nti amen.
Amen.
Amen. After Uncle Ness me the 9 no.
Thank you very much, Rema. I'll be a happy Sabbath. Yeah, may I and I'm ultimate cancel. But Rema, confirm me, say, woman, not ultimate voice here. Good. I think my person may share my screen. May the laptop no share my screen. And but she and administrators no mama may other device no access. Nina N17, but yeah, thank you. And me share my screen now yet to me at the I share additional assay. Yɛde Nyame ase sɛ ɔde ɛnnɛ akyɛ yɛn na mpo ama yɛn akwanya sɛ yɛnsua adesua wei a yɛato ne din OCD, Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder. Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder. Sɛ din no ɛyɛ hu kakra but ɛnyɛ adeɛ a ɛyɛ hu bebree. Sɛ with time no yɛbɛte aseɛ ama obiara anya no adeɛ ɛwɔ mu. Yɛabɔ mpaeɛ deɛ na mmom anka ɛbɛyɛ yɛnsan mmɔ mpaeɛ biom tumi rɛda wase yɛsrɛ sɛ kɔ so na kyerɛkyerɛ yɛn na yɛn ahoɔden sɛne ɛbɛtumi ayɛ wɔ adwuma wadam ti amen. Daa ne da sɛ akwanya ba sɛ yɛnsua adeɛ a ɛnsɛ mokae a mpɛn pii no sɛ menya akwanya the first thing I say ne sɛ ma wapɔmuden ho ɛhia wo. Doctors for by your mafam dear, nurses for by your mafam dear. Obias or ye be boa be a bayana dear, name mom no. And Pempino, ayana agina one cassa also. So would be seen dear. Yamiadum and Naquia be braba. Even in our church, Yamiadum Sabbath be no health in pain for Edia Disiaka cra a brain. Your phone so, ya it me kind. TikTok, baby, there's a piece of health way going on now. In as much as yesika sem ho hia ye na ye invest in yesika ye ma ho nneema hia ye na ye invest in ye ma ne ebusuafo na ye dan ye japade hia ye no ye make sure nso say ya pomodin ho ebe hia ye na enye say ye pe nimdie ne keke ne mom ye de betu anamo sempo ya de baako ya nneema mienu a ye fa nkan na we time we should me gidi say ebeboa ama nneema my Tidane Damitufo. Say invest in knowledge, be your own doctor. My who trade into your topic no. Now one thing has been said, mental health idea ehunya pa ye. Nti apomodin efa adwen no ne dwumadie ho no. Ehunya pa ye. Mpɛn pii naa no yɛbu yɛn egu so titiri ne yɛn babibifoɔ yɛn Ghanafoɔ yɛte nneɛma bi te sɛ stress ne panic ne anxiety sɛ ehu bɔw sɛ usoro bibi ne adeade yɛmfa no sɛ ɛyɛ sɛbe ɛyare anaasɛ ɛyɛ adeɛ ɛhaw yɛdwene sɛ obi a ɛka yɛn Ewom mpɛn pii na no yɛfa nneɛma bi saa mu a ɛnyɛ hwee ɛyɛ tra na sɛ ɛyɛ ɛnkyɛ ɛntena hɔ nkyɛ. However no ebi wɔ hɔ a na ɛyɛ adeɛ ɛha adwen. Nti mehyia nipa bebree a ɔmo nya issues. Ɛhyɛ aseɛ no ɔka kyerɛ ne maame ne papa ba yɛmfa ne serious. Ebi wɔ hɔ a wontumi nna. Wontumi nna sɛ ɛnyɛ kuma bɛda saa na agodi asɛm abrɛ nipa no. Nti apɔmuden a ɛfa adwen no ne ne dwumadie ho, mental health ɛyɛ adeɛ ɛho hia paa yie a ɛtwa sɛ menom yie no yɛfa no serious. And yɛkɔ so no yɛbɛte aseɛ because WHO ɛka sɛ na sɛ wiase nyina kuba tan a ɔhwɛ apɔmuden so no ɛka biribi sɛ there's no health without mental health. Sɛ adwen no dwumadie no ɛnsi pii a apɔmuden ɛnni mu. Nti yes, cancer bɛkɔ, ebi hypertension bɛkɔ, diabetes bɛkɔ, wei nyinaa bɛkɔ. However, no it was sɛ sɛbe adwen no ankasa edi dwuma yie. Na yɛn nneɛma bebree na ɛko etia yɛn a mpo sɛ obi ɛwɔ haw bi a ontumi nti ho anamɔn. Titiriw ɛne yɛn ti aseɛ sɛ na medi kan sɛ yɛ bi before. Sɛbe sɛ ɛbɛka yɛn no kora yɛka adwen mu haw a the first thing a wanhwɛ a menu mmienu ɛbɛba yɛtirim sɛ ɛsɛbe ɛdambɔ. But mental health ɛnyɛ dambɔ. Fine, ɛdambɔ, but that is very extreme. Nipa no any reality any touch sa. But in pimping na nipa bebree go through a lot of things sa. Impo ye kan ye ferry because ebe kan se we die o anya hwe utim na ye o dekeke. And I say we impo die any e bother ye bestro. It is very wrong. Sana, I think say in our culture yɛde nneɛma bebree na ayɛ a yɛntumi nneɛma bi ho anammɔn a ebi hɔ a ɛdi enya. Ebi te sɛ sɛbi yɛn nuanom a wɔwɔ sickle cell disease yɛato wɔn din sɛ sickle a ɛnyɛ adeɛ a ɛyɛ papa. These are things ɛsɛ ɛtwe yɛn ho ɛfiri ho. In as much as a yɛhu ne sɛ problem wɔ ho no, ebi ɛbɛkɔ atie saa nkurɔfoɔ no a yɛnte aseɛ. Remember another example in our culture. Say yamia dom oba efa funa yame so na one thing I mean say nkofo tabisa say we dey sebe ochimi na say ye twa o. It is not, I mean ni nyina ya wo. So the whole point, we should stop the stigma. Na say your issues efa your mental health ho and say your issues efa adwene ho a yintu ho na mom. Afenso no ye cost no yebesua adesua because we for mental health ho and yebesua atia say ye kwan bebre betime de fa so atu ho anamon. Another thing I can is mental health egum bebre ebimpo post traumatic stress disorder say wa fati bia bi mu ubehia sa de ne bi mu na wo yempo hwehwew fancy obi for example ya na operation da na eye ne ya ohun say ebi o hwe video kra na say you be operation na bibi eye no and I say obi am fan say bia wanya car accident da so te car mu a die mbe hihye ne saa kozi so besi ni nyina eye problems a ewo ho a sometimes say to one among and ne OCD eka ho a na ebesua ade afa ho ye menim say enya ade a ye mu bebre na impo yate da yate so ye ntie da entiase enko akire me gi say na konya beba ema yesua ade na ye chance no za konya beba nso ama say ye was misa bi a ye san ebisa na yedi kan ye nhwa ade emfa adwen no ho nipadua no akwa bebre na ewo nipadua no obi a won ye na mom adwen no edanso. Inti yɛhwɛ nneɛma de ato so no aborɔfo no baako si brain baako si mind inti yɛka brain na ɛne akwaa no ankasa na yɛhu na mpempe no sɛnea yɛda ti na ayɛsɛ amɔmɔ bi ɛwɔ hɔ no gray ne color bi saa no ɛno ne brain no problems ɛba ho. There are times infections become, there are times issues ba ho ma nipa no ebia stroke ni ade ba but your fan cheme se me boy are bi din a menka obi ya na mom ya desua na yesua ebia stroke ni ade aka akwa na nkasa ebi o ha betima ye ho surgery ebi o ha betima manro ni ade then there's the mind enti twi kasa mo no say you need the right words ye adwen ema mienu ne nyina na mmom in actual fact adwen nankasa ene mind no into the mind no enye the physical thing a ye hu say edaetim no na mmom adwuma na eye no into the functional parts meaning say tiasia into ne ye hu a edaetim no any brain no na mmom adwuma na brain no ye ne kan we bom na odwen no and I say air function no ene ne mind no na impempi na no mental health issues affecting mind of course brain also affected and sometimes transmission and you might be more but impempi na no impoko hwa adwuma unhye da ehu hwe na mo mind no and I say adwuma na adwen no no impempi na ene na affected and sometimes in neurocrampo yentimi mfenro na mo maybe a psychiatrist and as a psychologist be ebedin komo na omonam sa kwan no so atimi aboa atuni mind no nti yenhwe ne ye pa mpempe no with mental health issues of course brain no and I say akwa no ankasa ya affected ye na mo mpempe problem no ewo sane adwuma sifa no nti obi a ebia sebe ya bo ne kronoda and I said nipa twahia na ho agene sikada so nam na say ni group big na ho mpo a na omuni oni mo na say group big cha okeke mpo a liam hye no because adwen no atrigger be say okay probably omuso be bi meanwhile omuni mo baby omo ye omo come baby so these are something that me per say yeah the two adwen mo but unfortunately these things are very complex impo omo ye hwehwemu a doctor for panfo bebre na nkasa entinyoma bebre na say yankopon ho ye hu sane wa ye adwen no ni juma fa no mpempe nipa ntiase entimi ehunu mo na emom to the best of our knowledge no so ye nyane ma bi ho ntiase a ye betimi ede aboa ye ho ye koso no ena desua no o se OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder so medical kind your disorders are hudo bebre ya ewo ho mental health on ebi anxiety ebi post traumatic ebi different types and this one no and ebehwenene say share words ya chemu kakra ye bibi ye obsessive first part and I compulsive second part. Now in pain, this is a condition. I said this is a situation. Oh, you're obsessed. Bibi, unya a dream be, and I say bibi a shell so, and I say unya ninti be say opeso ye bibi. Da peso ye bibi, and sad ye no ebe koso abawa dream over and over and over and over again. Yes, and am I very distressed? Am I very uncomfortable? One yes, sad ye na. Untmintina. Into for example, obi wo ha wato ne dom wapi okɔ adwuma na dream no unlock it door no now mutie me ha pa yi if say sa nneɛma we ɛto yɛn ɛnkyerɛ sɛ ɛyɛ OCD yareɛ no na mmom OCD yareɛ no ɛyɛ different kakra it when yasa obsession no ama na yɛ distressed ɛkwan na ɔnam so kɔ adwuma no nyinaa no ɔnte ne ho ase into the next na ɛbɛyɛ ne sɛ biribi bɛfɔ no still sɛ ɛneɛ kɔ fie na akɔhwɛ sɛ walɔke wo door no so there'll be a compulsion, there'll be an action, there'll be something like a ritual. Nipa ne be ye. Or yes, I na afina ne why then atono. But ne hotona and they were hona. Otu ne nambi mana was sign I said one two plunim, even though I call her the first time. One two plunim. Na cycle no so over and over and over again. It is really interesting. Ninta make us a munti me hapa ye and say. Sometimes it's me put as a man to me charge for as a man charge a normal a two be sometimes unye sure so far key na unye sure say way but then a see na uhu okay oh me faki no na ende it doesn't put you in the distress oh me faki na ma faki no well me ko adwuma right at least me here key no ye me e bia me wardrobe key me here adwuma that is wo nipa na owo sa condition when even though a wardrobe key a ohia wadwuma still won't me ko adwuma no obisan abefa key na as abehwe se key ne ho a ansa na ne ho ato no enye sa the whole day na ebe ho na adwuma ano no And then put one na we free a horse or coffee, no, and as all quite jumamono. A bayonet to say still the same thing. It continues over and over and over again. You best sign abide by mobile more now. Any examples, baby. Where just one example, but I have a lot more of examples. You bet me at the ATS here. Yeah. The same medical kind, there's a first part, obsession. But your obi more make a obsession the chi day. Say bibi when the GB hona say when when ya I say krama ni don't pay and I say krama ya huni ura. Sani minim say obi on the tree but obetimi obi on the tree obsession tree obetimi abam ama ya tiase but me pese me kira ase sani etie no obi o tree obetimi a o meeting ho na wakasa. There's no problem with that. But then say bibi ewo wadwen mu na ade no da ne da e hye so say ya ade no. Now, just to clarify, it is natural to have an obsession over something. Obi ho penyom. There's nothing wrong with that. Ope choral music, problem be anyhow. Obi ha ope aduane bi. Inti ne maame na ne nua because na yimreme ye ebia gobe amawa. They hold the bell na adwumu side say ne nije ho. There's nothing wrong with that. However, many a time no in this condition no obsession no idea nipa no kra ompe, but it is coming, the thoughts and the pictures, and it could be anything. Ebi wa efi sebe obi anyo fi. However no there's a level of debt I'll bet me at tolerate. What proud them upie na unse wa de bi toho obet me afana so pa obet me jaya ato. Some of these people cannot sit, they have to do it. If me growing up kura me so minimobia ni fear hono eduasi ho, and sometimes they do this time it leaves in the folly when you're not a partner opera or tin fear ho say leave if you throw beto ho a obeka kofa like on train say oh I didn't tibio the bakupo na beka to ho obeka kofa. And these people have these thoughts. It could be about religion, and I'll speak more about that aspect, and so you know it could be about obi awa. There are some of these thoughts are nipanempe, but it comes up and it will be on the person's mind throughout the day. Or you won't share any. Kosi say what was so I hear the next part, which is compulsion. Ebu ho inya obsession kwa. Okay. Inti nchemwa ba say obsession adwin a ese wona sade a possess ubisa no na ehye utrimu na eventually I saw je ho enye ye medasipi. And the next part a compulsion no obi onye na nkwa but pempi na connected into when obsession then the only thing I saw be somebody can no is to move to the compulsion part until you take that action and it becomes a ritual. And to obi ha send your enemy obi or resources or share boxes and I send entire in a certain way and I say be the utensils in the cups in a certain way. Me can say you says you partner I say the nyoma na mo mbu ho ahye ne utensils in a certain way nti bo ye ndi kuno ye ne yere now fana odi si ho na 1 inch crumple beto so a becomes a problem. And in the person's reaction no this okoye ne ye and so nam kron na won oju bebe na otu ne na wa ya de na so a obeba back abeye ne ye asa. So these are the two things. Nti according to one diagnostic criteria be no obsession is the recurrent and persistent thoughts into a recurrent a tesi and persistent a bar it doesn't stop a kwa na ba a banswa it doesn't stop so na be kind no into for example say me say bia me ma me so benua go be amani yimre ana kwa for say Frankfurt kwa for say you may be release high life be na me penyum na I'm looking forward to it. That is not an example of this because some of these things happen to us every day and yare mumfa and I say and mental health issues. But this one are recurrent and persistent thoughts. edges or images that are experienced at some time during the disturbance. Until go through the disturbance, it is experienced at some time of it as intrusive and unwanted. In pain, you don't even want that thought. It just bumps in and it stays until someone goes through the cycle. No? Now, this then can affect you almost even throughout the day. And sometimes, criteria and more than 1 hour in a day. But of course, diagnosis na doctors for ejuma. But you see, say just in case ye be and I said it's only a man ebi sa affect your more me ama doctors bit media hospital na omashe na ye who has any bit one among. The next part is compulsion. Or say compulsions are repetitive behaviors or mental acts. Into when you're obsession then you have a behavior and I say you have an act and I say a ritual obey. Yeah, compulsion no and so a nyoma a shall say ye. It's when you say obsession na I don't know shall say any year way. Send your ocean phone na I didn't actually night to say chain no. A shall say yeah, exactly. Driven by obsession or rigid rules. Inti when you obsession na I shall say yes I act no. Inti ebia efia ba kumputo ho na se bi ho opie ba bi on peso ade mu. Because ebia nipa de nsa so nti opie kram na say omue doko office bia ontimi en so do mumye. So tena train me on peso obegde nsa ebe so train mo. And I say on peso because ebia nipa bi abetena ho a efia wo mo ho na bibisa. There are people like that aimed at reducing the stress or preventing dreaded events, but are often excessive and not realistically connected to their purpose. In pain, they want to do these things. Obsession be free. However, no, it's always at the extreme, and I say many a time, no, na a bruso. Send a mechano, meaning Saura and a mechana say me. Se leave beer if free. Esro ebe tofoma and found one baby a own if you or no the aniko bijai no ako fasa living or not there to baby because son or penal it happens like that. Now some medical kind of OCD could range from different places and I say different themes and I say cuts across multiple areas. It be a contamination. Obi was a medical I can if men can say obi a fee and I say obi pay fee. However, menumi no yɛ adwene sɛ yɛbɛpia nɔpa akwaba. Ebi anɔpa yɛpie hu sɛ adeɛ kakra ɛsɔ yɛ ataadeɛ mu. Baabi a madwuma atumi akɔ adwuma ba a ɛnyɛ hwee. Nipa saa no, until sɛ wasi ataadeɛ no anasɛ wasesa ataadeɛ no, wontumi nyɛ hwee saa da no. And this is quite severe. Nti yɛmfa ne sɛ example, ɔba ɛwɔ saa issue wei na ɔte classroom a the whole time untimi focus in the teacher be not doing it so because there's that persistent thing say I didn't be a udi o way no udi o snack and I say udi o lunch and I say whatever it is no kakra bi so atade anymore e wom so the tissue paper but I just think it to a bi ho until so the abefia besi and as asesa no you can't focus and you consistently have that thought. And these are some of the things. By the way, a lot of things happen to children now. Sometimes we don't get it. And I think, say, as parents, na nneɛma bi wɔ hɔ nso a yɛnte aseɛ. Nkɔla bebree akɔ school a yɛsɛ ɔmo nya adeɛ. I don't like to use a term, but sɛnea yɛuse no yɛsɛ ɔmo abɔn. They don't do well. And the parents are not impressed. Da yɛka ɔmo anim ne adeade. Ɔafɛfoɔ ɛda sei no, woda sei ne adeade. Wobɛkɔ akɔhwɛ bi wɔ kora no ɔyɛ dyslexic. Or dyslexia. Air conditioner, a crown will be a want mean cassa ye, want mean tia semi ye, papa, and I say point mean kaya dear papa, and want mean tre, papa, teach you no more want mean kaya dear papa no. To be her words nibia makes a be a beanie deal hana wa daneno, a be animal, or no best spelling aminal, and a bibisa or ben makes name a big cracker and getting it on. Obedience about Frana Ibia Wabon wouldn't spell it, but probably not all issues kakra. When him say Chrome had here, I think some crying consistently no doctors in the medical way for to try to assess some of these things, even on more here any other day. ye chrome ye time yes and a nneɛma no bi wɔ hɔ a yɛn a yɛyɛ awofoɔ no a yɛne ɔmo te fie no we can detect it. Now back to this. Others are health anxiety. To be or fear so bayare or fear say be a day one so 8 bottles of bayare or fear say a day no say would be beer or bayare and I say one year particular thing be better no and consistently that'll be the thought and the person will go through that cycle over and over and over again and the person will be very anxious or be anxiety throughout the day. Oh, me no so too much because make a sense so and that weather near cool it be a 0 degrees body no here so be because just a little of nsuo body none about but because want me no be no the person will go through that thought say na any me yare a bit my responsibility fear of making a mistake to do how a papa with your busianim or your sorry penny or your jumamu candy for or hold the position be and now we're responsible for something we're driver ni or we're in charge of something the consistent way say what if say me a mistake na obi wu and I say be a two obi and away drives them like that a bit me SSR a bu her relationships what if say me to make pra madam for be and I say me can't say my enye fa madam for be home and I say impo me ba and all these things it cuts across multiple areas ibu ham send me kind of say obe how be obe probi anything I mean ko be a home sɛ me ne obi bɛdi agorɔ anaasɛ bi a nipa deɛ mfonso wɔ obi ho nipa ho sɛ me ne nipa ebe interact na mɛfom nipa deɛ na ayɛ nipa ne adeɛ ne menkɔ obi ho mɛtena me baabi and that becomes the repetitive action or even religion and sometimes yɛmu bi hɔ a in our walk with God no ɛba saa nyankopɔn so wɔ yɛ agya yɛfom a yɛmmra ne nkyɛn ɔde bɛkyɛ yɛn. But some of us sometimes ye kind boni ayeye and then my boni 5, my papa 8. Yeah, maybe meko. You know, we are so focused on certain petty things. And yeah, dear yanko pompe say a dream home. And my boni back me trantro. Tia me basi see me wu and I say bibi like near my ha a bimo echo through that situation. It affects them. Men can't say me nya guilt and I say uye bonia and my nya no. But look at it. Yankopon say, yeah, dear, and I say, yeah, bonia, treni trim, yeah, the GDM epai eka, no cremo, Yankopon so no cry for so the bechain. Or the chain, ya, it was see a jitum, so what they are chain. Na yet was so echoyanim. But it comes over and over and over again. And it is not just say eba over and over again, but it causes you to do something. And even a Yankopon go do higher. Wafum nua bia na bibi asi wakopa na che ose me de ache but consistently about how you say ade amede ye she de me sure you go to the person again she so in person ade me de ache me no ye kama still consistently and it affects you the whole day untimi enye hwe and this is the condition we are talking about yemfa mu da ye ntiase but people go through that because obi ho dream say or lock in the door no and I say or anopa no or yeah or microwave aduane no one two way in a friend is saying microwave way now free I'm sockets anymore into ne dan bit me ahye to the whole day because so be sade no ne ho nto no obaye wie nso a okwa obesan baba thinking say one year the first time obaye no yen go through these things are yen tiase. However, people really go through these things every time. And also in children. In Pimpinano, about 50% of cases are OCD hono by age 19 and I diagnose. In fact, around 8 to 12 years, and in the late teens, in Krabbe a diagnosed of this condition, and about 50% are on crime. That means a very significant. However, no, a thing say be because in Krabbe money ma be a very random. I feel no musio ma be brain timpo. Ye name say ye way and ye, but some of these things I've said, you bet me a monitor. A crabby or her, or person ye idea in a specific way. So one far box kitwa way and see way so amfa triangle and see square no so and as a circle and see in that particular order ompe obesu sa kusi se obeyaman oyamano still no sign amex in yakobiem. Now the same thing happens over and over and over again. Say noticing you might be say probably you know I'm check up, but we should mention it to their doctors. Akrebi or her need ye a baby on pay a fee and a baby sir. And the same things that happen in adults, it can happen in them. And omoyen crying to omu, and I mean, you know, so yen expert in it, but ye may any talk from na ye whom be bisa ewe man more. We can alert our doctor, say na man who am a bawe, whom be okay. And I think that they would have a way to handle it because about 50% of these things happen in children. Now, in the world of, and I say in the age of technology, there's something we call, I think it's there's an aspect of OCD about our phones. And I say devices, laptop near that day. So be 5 minutes not on sharing the phone so maintenance. And found a baby. And eventually it is becoming a thing. And it is affecting your focus into what a classroom, what a lecture hall, in because the person cannot go 5, 10, 20 minutes on sharing the phone so. Because obi be sending a message. Now says some message, obit me a reply na do. Message nebia at saying, obit me a reply na I say break time. But not dream no. So one fa message na reply is to say unt maintain ni teacher ne beka nyina no. Say that's if or the phone could score. Enko na dream. And I say ni device, whatever it is. Enko ni dream. And throughout the day, that cycle continue over and over again. Muntie I keep on repeating it. Say obsession beba. Na obsession or push the person to do the compulsion part and say action is so taken. Na ne ho atono. But now I repeat it over and over again. That makes it the condition. Because in the medical actually, sometimes we go through some of these things any way be or has make confess no. Sometimes when you show swallow kill door and I say when you show say be what they iron no edum jano and bisa all these things happens. But continuously echo through echo cycle no, over and over and over no, becomes that inti our ne time aya yenhwen kra ne ye sometimes no omuye ne mabisa na it could be say enyahwe. But just to be on the safer side, let's prompt their doctor say a call checkup and can't so me ban man notice so yes say be okay. And I think say they would work on that. Before we talk about management, one of the things I would like to say are courses. And I say, Ekwanya Nyama way efaso eba. Ekwanya efaso eba. And I say, nefaribai mainly. Now, we still don't understand fully OCD, Seni and Bobby and Yobia etie. But it's been noticed, say, it could be genetics. Into our form was a conditional. Sometimes it be no man so ewosa. Ebi also a behavioral nneɛma bi a wakɔ through into some exposure bi a wanya in the past ebetumi akɔ so saa. Ebi also there are particular issues, some infections be etumi cause autoimmune, especially diseases, especially in mmɔfra ebetumi ɛde saa nneɛma wei aba. Ebi also cognitive, sɛnea adwene no ankasa ɛyɛ adwuma si fa no ebetumi de aba. Epempe no, like I said no, ɛnyɛ adeɛ baako na ɛde ba. Pimping a nneɛma bebree na ɛkeka bom. And sometimes go nneɛma bi sa na you see a lot of things. But that send me to FR research no. It is not always say BB associated and say BB any BB nama. It just says sade na cause sade. Me mama example. Ebia me didie munye. But yesterday I say bia any day bia me fan say Elder Domre, me Peter. And no bitimi didi ye pa. So conclusion beba out and they say Nelson any elder Peter enama Nelson bitimi didi ye. However, a bit my name bebre one, a buoha. Meduane no media nsome ba menim kofi a kofi nama otimi etobi ma no some e bitima ba say well me kwa me didi a mitimi didi bebre na mo kofi timi didi enti na ehye me nkran na ayama kona me so metimi didi bebre e bitimi so ba say e bi ha meduane no meto no bebre ba mitimi ni ba elder bedi ni die wi bedi me die. However, you name the exact relationship and yet causal and yes a way in a cost way, but a associated. My whole point is and pimping you who be bring out internet so. But interest say no pot in a deba, nemum, and then no enam. Until you who way, and chess away in a way by bit member say, be or a connect to my yen because than name the end adrian equanim. Nti mpempi no OCD nneɛma nkasa de ba no yɛnim ɛna ɛnyɛ deɛ baako mpempi na nneɛma bebree na ɛkeka bom. But yɛnka ho sɛ some of these things a yɛka ba OCD no ɛnyɛ adeɛ a ɛyɛ nnubɔne na ɛde ba nti obi hɔ ɔda nnubɔne so na go through these things and then that is a different case. Ɔno aduro so ne normal self but going through these things. Nti it's a doctor diagnose we mpempi yɛnyɛ test it's more of behavioral nti who didn't come on symptoms that na or mashe. There are two ways mama yedi a treaty. Back home teach you a therapy. Until one of psychologist a bidding come and there would be some cognitive behavioral therapy and no the other side and so a neuro and a treatment because who's a dream we have to be serotonin. Some of these chemicals na juma wa dream na it me enya good mood near that don't know. Who say in this condition ya na form you know them about pimping na many a time it is usually therapy and I say combination of both. Until there's an exposure and response prevention therapy and I say a ER PT yehono. And usually what they do is say they try to identify the triggers. Into send a medical can obia one idea and as obia baby an idea busy. Obi an idea phone, obi an idea or dream say Yankopon be no, because why born about one pay. Obi an idea a fee or who say or cotton train more and as a bass more ebi obi a one horror and sa asom into on so or better she cranting she. Obi how usru say, well, main water. This is the first time me mother and I said this is the first time me father. Into what you say, me mistake number from BB a year. And I say, me ban BB etona. Obi ha menye position with that, menye ebia menye elder that menye Sabbath school leader that menye secretary that. What if say me mistake? All these things are there. So we try to identify the triggers. Because one thing, think of OCD as this way. Say fear, not fire alarm. And I said smoke detector. Ajuma fire alarm and I said smoke detector and I say eja tofi and I say eja bi broswa or be aletio. However, think of the situation say instead of say eja anything a fire alarm be aletio no. I say problem about home. Inti also toast them na alete. Say your friends opa match crumpa na some matches crumpa na alete. Bibia or baby na alete. Consistently no hallucinate eventually no I do go through a lot of stressful situation because Emma false alarm instead of doing it right thing. So what treatment and as what this RPR EPR no would do is say we identify the triggers. Number two, they try to structure the triggers until you how be and as and three, they expose you kakra to that thing until you osro that and yes ade kakra mpoto na tade mo na wan pepa bibi beye no. So what your psychologist would probably do with you and say or the think kakra be go na ma on sa kan fi no onko horo nsa sa time no just as you realize say within that moment no if you can stay there for a while until gradually you are being exposed to or safi and I said that whatever I think that is it's never a bit me about. But like I said, there's not much treatment for this. And the good thing is not many people in the population have this, about 1 to 3%. However, teacher below 20 years especially, it may see, and it is important say ye beba so. And Christopher in our walk with God, Yankupon eye obatampa omuyemfo. I'm not saying say enkoye boni. I'm not saying my nya no. However, no, say it what depend I can ye born any papa ya any ade no. I'm not sure say that is how God expects us to live. And the pain pin that thing consumes us. Instead they say ye be Yankopon chain. Na ye no edin kita ho na se boni bi po de abeche no. E share yen so ama we can't do that. And it could be a form of OCD in a way. To summarize everything, no, so there being enough time for questions and answering. No, I didn't want to go so much into details. So be broad dreams to be brave. So bet me at here say, and I yet me and I'm rebel so I didn't get a I'll still show a video. No, so it will add to the explanation of my man. And I say additional yes, you know, because if you have who are there a buano maneti say. So I'll go ahead and I'll play a video. But
So, I just I'll share something on Zoom.
The thoughts kept coming. I had horrible thoughts about hurting my fiance. The only thing was I knew I unplugged my curling iron every morning. I was positive I did. But as soon as I got out the door, the thoughts started. Thoughts that I left it on and that it would start a fire. I had to go back and check again and again. My apartment building has a speed bump on the way out. Every time I drove over it, I was terrified I ran someone over. I had to turn around, get out, and check. I never got out of my parking lot.
Every public surface I touched felt full of germs. The only way I'd feel better was to wash my hands. I did it 20 times a day sometimes even more. These are the voices of Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder, or OCD. OCD is a serious condition that causes great distress and really impacts people's lives. People become overwhelmed by their thoughts and anxiety and feel like hostages to the rituals that help take away that anxiety. I know. One of these voices is mine. People with OCD experience obsessions, which are specific thoughts that are intense and intrusive. People don't choose to have them, and they're often very distressing. Obsessions make it hard to concentrate or get anything done. A lot of times, these thoughts are about germs or safety, but they could be about anything, really. In my case, it was my curling iron. If you asked me, I would tell you I know I unplugged it. I remember doing it. But the thoughts that I didn't were so strong, telling me I left it on. It was so scary, and it made me feel unsafe, like my house might burn down, all because of my curling iron. Second symptom of OCD is compulsions. These are ritual behaviors, and people with OCD do them to help deal with the anxiety, horror, or distress they feel because of their obsessive thoughts. There are many types of compulsive behaviors, but they often focus on washing or cleaning, checking on things for safety, or repeating words or numbers. In my case, I had to check on that curling iron. I came back to my house, went upstairs, saw it was unplugged, left again for work, and then I would repeat it all over again. It was really tough for me to get to work on any given day. I knew I didn't need to do this at all, but it felt totally out of control. There's good news. OCD is treatable. Several types of treatment are effective, and people with OCD can overcome their obsessive thoughts and ritual behaviors that have controlled their lives. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is the most effective treatment. In CBT, people work hard to challenge their thoughts and change the behaviors that follow. There is a specific type of CBT that is used just for those of us with OCD. It's called Exposure and Response Prevention, or ERP, and it works to help us delay or resist ritual compulsions and cope with the resulting anxiety in a different manner. Over time, the anxiety becomes less disruptive and can even disappear. In addition, many people find relief from a specific medication that helps with getting those obsessive thoughts under control. Several SSRIs are used with OCD, and they really make a difference for a lot of people. A combination of ERP and medication is often the best choice for many people. It was for me. The medication took the edge off my anxiety, and my thoughts about the curling iron got a lot less distressing. In therapy, I learned how to postpone going back to check on it. It was so hard at first, but my therapist guided me in doing this, and I learned to get through the anxiety. Eventually, I proved to myself I could do it. Obsessive-compulsive disorder really changes people's lives, often causing them to feel like the disturbing thoughts and rituals have power over them. But with evidence-based treatment, it doesn't have to be that way. People can learn to challenge their thoughts and manage their behavior. They can take control of their lives again. I know. I did.
Hello, Bacho, Motimenka. Good. Inti, this was a summary of everything. Sene medikai a church mono. Enye condition a yeta ho. However, I ho yentanka wasep. And it's mainly based on our dream. The time no stimuli no and I said triggers no every inside from within a dream. And like every other mental health condition no and says a ferry home. It was said the need to form. Na say a yen and I say a obi oben yet me actually na omonya the right treatment no. Like I've said already, teaching a man below 20 years. Because in PMP now about 50% of diagnosis momo. And a bit me affect omonema baby or this the other. Imagine say Ureya Utrikai in the video. Imagine say anytime you be first speed bump so no na dream no or dreams or the car na abo obi and abo obi and he'll stop. And say imagine the number of speed ramps or the bay way na every time ya obejina. And like I said, Antoa, it doesn't look real, but there are people like that. In Tinyamema, like all other mental health conditions, we should help each other. And beyond this, is the fact that people go through this and don't even know about it. And sometimes obi buy and chain on here dinko sana and ye bibia na sebe ni nyina ya sresem. It could be say the panel no best but not same serious, and that is it. What kum no ne your friend is saying what kum I mechanic say I when na or was say or the beba or and what be sound common. These things are hard to deal with because our dream no juma no ye is a better you many. And because in pain pina people could hide a lot of things. To be or anxious or go through by a episodes be bipolar and as maybe when you na be daddy or the best team or no best three or me would be diagro ye be bompaye atonyom asa kama but not a shene ho. Yamema, let's learn and understand some of these things. Said these are real things that we go through and our people go through. Number one, tiye ne twase ye ho. Number two, so obi benyen na oni e din komo so a gen recommended appropriate people. And my yen fan yen komodie. It could be a very serious thing na e woni pa no ho. Na yen sai enkai nipa no e ompa ebomo. Say everything is going to be all right. Now, in addition to Pybon, of course, appropriate treatment also is taken. So yeah, they at the Siana OCD no BCH. Maybe say there'll be some questions, and I'll be happy to receive them. So a lot of time. Na yet me questions no ano. And for the sake of additionality, it's a question no, and yet directly related to addition. I'll give a short answer. Say ebejimra facha me say we would do it another time. I think so no say question bana say yentimi enyan wana say nimdie no enru we can do it another time too. There's no problem. It is better to go do some more research than say yedin futuro ebegu nyamema any. Nti yedi na addition besi ha. Yenka who say everyone is at risk one way or the other to end and is at risk to a type of mental health condition, especially if the triggers are there. And yeah, there's a fair home. So you can say, yeah, go for helper. Let's do what to go for help. So the bay bit me and yan sound mind. Et me at na say about a bra. Nan po et me a ye yami ejuma. And that must be Rema.
Amen. After me patches the Tibita and I say a contribution one, but I'm on pajama. Auntie G,
Yeah. Remember that say. Doc, nyame sure you that say. Masim be seni. Okasa no kan OCD ye related to cleaning. My question is say, what's the thin line between obi way too neat and having an OCD which is related to cleaning? What's the thin line?
May I say? It's true. Because obi woha Sebi said me kind of if you the pa and says and yeah idea say yepe. However, and so me check mono one OCD no I thoughts are and I say images are nipa na empe. Nipa na oye too neat no. On one person say oh me hwa me ha niema ba me ego ha. It's my mempra ha nyina. On one person obepra because on person who feedback compo. Nipa na OCD no. On pe but on to me and na ho say well popcorn back quarter for me to maintain ho and as a men fan to or just me pra number one. So that's one very important thing. They are always unwanted on their side. Nipa no needs in the on one paymo and pesa popcorn be a better me them hand me pra. Number two, nipa na oye two fan say say finida ho meet me enemy mamia kasa wie ansana mapra nipa na and that's okay mene ma mebe kasa kama pepepe ansana mapra nipa na owo OCD no empo se onene ma me kasa na adwum no be very stressed very tense and komo no de na adwum ni so kosi se sa adwuma no and say sa efine da ho no ya pra nti anyway the person becomes very distressed about everything. Number three, there's that compulsion. Like I said, no, first nipa no anything willingly, this one feels feels pulled. Say a ritual be say unkoye, it was so ye. Nipa na oye anything, or we are, it's a normal thing for him. Nipa na oye all OCD no, obey relieved. I say, your friend is saying, udwane akofrobas udwane a udu na afrobas no afi na ho ato nti the feeling is also different afi another thing is say me na me ye neat no me say my prayer nti me koda na se me puako nipa na OCD no obepie o anya me puako obedru gate na I need say there be a fine that hobby. Let me come back and do it again. Now we sign abeye. So there are a lot of differences. And my name said metimi abwa omuya na.
That's what me Awuah. Na me hwɛ one documentary bi. And na me try link it. Deɛ mebisa wo yi. Sɛ woyɛ too neat as again sɛ ɛyɛ OCD related. Na lady bi
Yeah,
ne ne maame nyina ɔmo wɔ saa ɔhaw yi bi.
yeah,
Na ɛyɛ serious a sɛ lady no wɔ ne 30s. But ɔnhyɛ dɛ ntumi nyɛ adwuma full time.
yeah,
Senti yɛ sɛ ɔmo fie na ɔmo tim no. Ne bed a ɛwɔ ne bedroom no, ɔntumi nda so. N'adwene nyinaa yɛ sɛ ɔda so na sɛ biribi ketewa bi ka so a, ɛwɔ sɛ ɔsɔre no sesa bedspread no. Nti ɔsɔre anɔpa ɔbɛlay ne bed kama ne ade. Ba ne bedroom hɔ no, ne couch si hɔ, ne mu na ɔda.
mm-hmm.
Sɛnea ɛbɛyɛ a mpa no so nyɛ fi. Ano mpa no ɔnna so no, still ɔsɔre anadwo na wakɔhwɛ. Sɛ biribi wɔ so a. And ne maame no nso wɔ ne 60s. Pensioner, ɔno deɛ ɔnyɛ hwee. Na ɔka asɛm bi na it was sad. Ɔse ne kitchen sink no. Ɔsɛ bi wɔ wanto tap no mu yi a those drops of water
Yeah,
no.
nkete no, yeah.
Ete no. Ɔntumi stand the sound of it. Mpɛ sɛ baako mpo bɛsɔ sink no mu. Enti during the day no ɛno na ɛgye n'adwene nyinaa nti ɔkɔ na ɔkɔ pepa adeɛ no afiri mu. Na ɔkɔ pepa adeɛ no afiri mu. Ɔntumi nda anadwo o.
Yeah.
Da kakra bi a ɔsɔ ɔsɔre na ɔkɔhwɛ sɛ nsuo no bi wɔ mu a na ɔpepa. Nti I was thinking sɛ ɛyɛ sɛ ɔyɛ too neat. Nti na ma ɔmo yɛ ɔmo fie kɔ so kɔ ɔmo fie hɔ a hɔ yɛ spotless.
Yeah.
Even stones a ɔnsɛ bi wɔ no ma efie n'anim no baabi a ɔmo gardens wɔ no. For lack of a better word, ɔmo wɔ this stone. Ayi bi a ɔmo yɛ ne saa na they have this. I can't really describe it, forgive me. But I think say you get what I mean. Ɛhɔnom no.
Yeah, yeah.
Disinfectants go gu hɔ. Na ɔde nneɛma ahodoɔ agu hɔ to scrub it. Abɔnten hɔ no. Nti na medwen ho sɛ ɔyɛ way too neat. Ɛna ɛyɛ ayɛ ne sɛ ɛyɛ OCD anaasɛ I think sɛ nkyɛmu na mehu sɛ that compulsion that comes with it no.
Yeah.
Ɔno titiri no na ɔhaw no yeah.
Indeed. Thank you very much for examples. No. People go through this, but and one important thing I think I said it earlier. On your side, you can't do any other thing. Tibi muntimi juma. Sena meka e won cross or ko school on tie because sadie na so ye no one year ontimi enti ne chichene beka. And it me a hard dream pay, but it starts little by little sometimes, and that is why I na yesu ade sene be ya ye hu say teacher ni am koda no and say mpo ye mu ye na fufuo ne bibisa eba because sometimes no emfa ho ne need ta obeye you should be able to tolerate just a little bit of way. And if that thing is really affecting you and having that compulsion, now over and over again. And why ya no? Or you say 1 year, or you now back, there's definitely a problem. And Tishi, I mean sure piece or this way na abba. Rema.
Let's see, don't say Patrick. Another question of contribution.
Yeah, my whole question back on. Oh, okay. Into okay, ma Juliana, right?
I'm Patrick, but I say,
Oh, okay. That's usually all right.
Patrick, my TBIT starting, OCD, no. illness and I idea because we are crabby or bedroom say odi agro on person that see a becanensa. Ne take a crack and sa or person or coach.
Yeah.
Na so would did I be turn a tile monsua. A gran so obedia we pa de baby is all rock. Natare no was a son and Saukas will be across the vida. It's only because a idea and because man see said you see and starting on medasi.
Medasi P.
And why bit me the abuano.
Medasi, meeting will be. I think some say question about console about into make come in an album. Or say a yes say make can say may OCD and I'm too OCD and because go for eka and appropriate sir. I think say they mean ebia nipa no nti is actually me fa chat and na me do the nature to nti probably nipa no mean say bia me ye me nyoma say but you don't use yare no say na me kan no and I say you don't use the conditional stigma no nti ebi wo ha trying to be by a kanema be medium yes, but it is not appropriate. If you want to do your things in order, that's okay. There's nothing wrong. Say but OCD itself is beyond say and one other thing, usually no, and you will now diagnose OCD. It is at the discretion of a trained professional or doctor and I say or psychiatrist or and I say or psychologist or be a training with that because your criteria be use so it's not just the symptoms so your training might be and some diagnose that until I think say it is not appropriate to use the term casually. Now Auntie Juliana Enokre a mental health issue nti how a ɛba adwene no dwumadie ho nti and in the case of abofra indeed it could be one nti abofra say no yɛmo na wofoɔ asotere sɛ this is how your daughter behave ɛnyɛ sɛ wɔyɛ neat bro so menim mfi akora no di but still ɛnyɛ sɛ wɔyɛ neat ɛbro so because abofra deɛ mpo panyini koraa sɛbe wodidi na adeɛ kakra ɛtɔ ho a you'd want to finish first. And sana with me Saturday now best sana sense obeto aswa. And that's a typical example of mofradiano. Because odidi na se eyene sana kosi se obesi Saturday na so be horo sana sene tanti Julie ebisa no. Ontimi nya hwebia biem na adwen nyina ebewo sade no so yes also wadin fie na but still now it can happen like that na adwen nyina ebetimi awo sade no so ko si se ye be horo ne nsa na sa fie be free ho ansa na watimi ade fofo biem oye wie a it will come back ne ho beto no but it will come back to the same thing over and over again. There's a little bit of way say it could be say something else. It could also be say OCD because in typical OCD no efini ni ho mpo a obedwin say efini wo ho ti obekwa kohoro ne nsa ebia we abofra nti no this is how it starts because these things don't come at once. This is how it starts nti sene Martino and I said description akono enye very normal especially for abofra. So betimi to our phone for say this is what you've seen into Omoko hospital or can doctor say na omoba no e be heavy say yeah and I say on baby son and send on my diagnosis and I say send yeah on betimi aya aboa ne bia and I think say ebeboa Auntie Julie minim say yetimi aboa asemi sana and sana ma hu sa for but Auntie Julie ba yetimi aboa
Pacho medasi. Nambesi mimu genetic and if I usu. And I say, is he a deneba?
yeah inti ya di kan atwere mu kakra ebi efia wusu inti ebi wo ha awofo no bi ewo a etimi amofra no timi nya ebi wo enye ebi won so enye awusu nko a ebi wo ha environmental exposure na say tebia bi na experiences bi anipa na famo ebi won so yesian say some infections bi eba amofra mo etimi cause autoimmune disease ene nyoma kakra bi etimi eboa ne yenim say enye simple so be can say if you also even though you say if you also you say be ade we ni ade we na trigger and I'm pimping never be brina na kikambom Into the fire by nankasa no yen shada and tiasye. But yedi kind and I say who say ampa awfo a omo sa situation no ebinom emma etumi enya binso. Meda say. Okay. Mahu and Sabako, Baba.
Okay, Nelson, not the question I mean, Busana, yeah, me follow up and say, a bit me any free Bushimo and answer, but no question. Let's start the trust and say, if say, a bit me a free Bushimo, and also your friend saying, it's mission, if free will be all. And I said, maybe a peer pressure, it's me, will be so, like a effect will be so.
Meda say. So, a no, we could pick some of these traits, a no, but entirely that because Kahun said it is not just practice be our practice. Same as you obi nanti a me nanti keke, but there's bibia from epemo and I say epemo say okay man to me to atade no manyi ayom na mfiri ade no so na wakwaba wabeyi ade no and I say obey kra na wayi but still obesan akobiem aba nti enye say asua de keke. There's something that affected the function of the mind, you know, always putting you in a position say there be ade we twa say me ye ni biem ansa na me ho atome. So the fire by nankasa de very complex. And it means pointing one thing or the other. But sometimes, you know, people can learn new money be from certain places. However, it is not the only thing. Like I said, and yes, baby, and tradition as a nantibia, obesians and obey move your steps. There's always something that it may push you. So many a time now, prevention is not something we could do because then that would be another question. Can we prevent it? If it's messy, no coin. Many a time, it is not something that you want who controls her. The best we can see is a bit who science and them. Let me to a 2 hour more. I want to say example of about Friday. Ebiana enye OCD. But anyone wants to say a OCD and I say be bisa ashasi. Tie hun in terms say na yet me etu coin. I one more. Me that say. Okay. Rema, okay, but your mahu she by sana Elder Gabriel nti she be ko na Elder odi ato so.
Sorry, my elder bro, yeah, no maba. Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
Okay, bro, me that say. Na me busa say, aya sha ase no the blame no, ene mind no na fato ho ana odi kyerɛkyerɛ OCD mu kyerɛ yɛn. Na me pese me hu say mind no sɛ de nyame ahyehyɛ na egu nipa ya adwene mu no. Sɛ ebi ɛte sɛ for me man fato bi te sɛ etimi yɛ te sɛ wuntini entini ɛwɔ yɛ ho yi. Sɛ baabi ebi wɔ hɔ antɔ yie a na ayɛ sɛ ama wɔ hɔ no ebi a na wo nan ana wo nsa hɔ na ho no ana apagya. Brain bi ɛyɛ saa ɛna de saa deɛ wei bi baa na.
Okay. Nti ampa medical church mo. In pain no mental health yare fa adwene no dwumadie ho no. More of the mind. Nti brain no sebe akwa na da itim na se pa itim a yebehu se da ho no. Yes, ewo ni dwumadie die yare eba ho. Nyema bi to say stroke because eno eka enam akwa na nkasa ene ade. But mind no adwene no dwumadie na wodi ne. Nti se me hu a mechia wo. Me kasa se me ye Zoom meeting obia muting obia nkasa mfa because obia adwenkyere ne say etwa se me yedin na ye frɛ wansa na wakasa se ne bibia ɛwɔ he kama no. That is the mind. Nti sometimes some of these mental health conditions there's a relation because our mind enye emphasis and pain now there's something wrong with the brain. But in the case of OCD, say you won't say you be serotonin, chemicals adwene no ɛde yɛ adwuma or the send signals na yɛtumi feel good and see a mood kama no stabilize your mood no ɛyɛ ɛkɔ fam but adwene nankasa no ebi wɔ ha na touch ma even though yɛhu sɛ part bi wɔ hɔ a na activities akɔ fam but mp na touch ma nti wobɛtu akɔyɛ EEG yɛwɔ biribi a ɛfɛ no EEG wɔn sɛ ne yɛyɛ akoma ECG na a wotumi hu sɛ ne akoma no bɔ no yɛwɔ biribi a yɛde yɛ adwene saa obeye unhu hwee because problem nankasa every dwumadie na adwene no edi no nti ebetimi aba sɛ ne other kind no ebetimi aba sɛ ebia na adwene baabi na touchima sɛ saa adwene baabi a touchima no ana sɛ brain no nti meka akwa no sɛ meka twi no anyways for two near the adwene ma no but in actual fact adwene no ne mind no ti brain nankasa enhyɛ da ni twi ana sɛ e wo twi nso amenem na emom ebetimi aba sɛ bibi atochima wo enam no anasa akwa nankasa mu na ete serotonin ne adanioma no so a ebetimi lead to that na emom pempi no ebi wo ha with mental health issues ebi wo ha na adwen brain nankasa intact pempi no just asani adwen no esi efa so ye adwuma no na ye hu ne ye anasa enkoye but sɛ medical kind no nema bebre ho a ye nti ase ye nipa yi a adesua ekoso enti ne metimi aka afa ho no I mean we nyina so kyerɛ sɛ yakopɔn na ɔhyehyɛ nipadua no in fact ne ho ye ho because ohwɛ sɛ ne some of these things are nipa mu kandifoɔ ne abenfoɔ esua still nti ase entimi nkoye pɛɛ no ɛkyerɛ sɛ ne ɔnwene nipa no ne ho ye ho elder but ne metimi aka afa ne obisae no ho no
Yo, bro, me da ase. Na me nhyira.
na me hwɛ so Majushi.
Nanso me da se. Me deɛ ne yɛ. Mehwɛ ne fa bi. Obi a ɔyɛ anorexic.
Okay.
Anorexic yɛ obi a. Okay, dɔ mama dɔ ka kyerɛ mu. Saa condition no. Ɔho. Ana saa de. Any OCD overlap.
Say.
Ajo ti minka.
Yeah.
Na me bisa sɛ obi a ɔyɛ anorexic.
Yeah.
Or anorexia. Saa deɛ disorder no any OCD overlap in some way.
Indeed. So one thing a man can and that's so I try to say many a time no mental health conditions need be now overlap. And it is even more difficult to tell. Because obi wo ha OCD ka bi wo ha ye hu say bebre na nso onko more addiction. Ebinom ewo OCD. Into the same for anorexia. Into anorexia basically actually eating disorder. Into obi wo ha na didie mo no for the fears of be kese or person maintain no natural body ne or person ya flat tummy ni ade ade ne any on person be kese abroso ni ade ade no or hwe ogina mirror mo person or ye when o show ne mazos ni ade ade ne minidi nti your friend is saying meti medua so a day Mary apple back company ade ade there are people there's nothing wrong say o person o look good and I say o person bia or maintain body until go through a diet regimen. But it's been a fear and I say a mental health situation. Why so obsessed say and found a come bed the whole day. If you apple back and consider back compare now very in a day. No, I bet me how bet me why but that becomes a mental health problem. Into the truth is a lot of mental health problems overlap. OCD bebrena anxiety, ebinya addictions, ebinya anorexia so a lot of them overlap and occur. And like I said, there are a lot of mental health disorders. And then maybe more ebinya mere esuano makom. But in pain pinano, ebinya way a free other ones and so many in keka ebom. And no boa emma nentiasia no in fact mental health doctors because it is very difficult many a time it is really difficult to understand and this a malaria you check your temperature na your test you say when you malaria and I say BP, you check your blood pressure and diabetes, check sugar, you won't say sugar cholesterol. It is not easy like that. Tissue NAB and fans will be all bipolar or switch it from one end to another. It is not easy like that. And okay, there's always some overlap between a lot of these, including addiction, anorexia, and anxiety. And so, may I say?
nso me da ase na kyerɛ sɛ ansa na wobɛgyina baabi aka sɛ wowɔ OCD no na ɛwɔ sɛ woakɔ akɔhwɛ ɛne sɛ wogyina deɛ happen nko ara so anaa
Good. Intimate science is studia. Menum yenu ayeti ha yene hu tumi sɛ bɛka sɛ obi anya OCD. Ɛyɛ ɔmo a sɛ bɛyɛ training ɔmo a yɛtu ɔmo ka sɛ ɔmo nyɛ saa adwuma no ɛna ɔmbɛtumi ahwɛ because apart from the makyerɛw no yɛwɔ other criteria yɛhwɛ because sometimes nneɛma no bi sisɛ yɛwɔ other things a yɛhwɛ ansa na nti bakyɛw ɛba diagnosing condition na doctor and I say o psychiatrist and on kwan so be diagnose it's na make us more use term no say we no it is very inappropriate nti medasipin so nti bacho my ntena be so manya yare we ya chere me we nti manya we da bi e more kai say probably there's something going on but your doctor Juma so be sure say we na ekoso na we na ekoso Rema me hun sabako me name say okay, nti yɛtwɛn Rema no, Bacho, Ajua Anachinwa will be the last person. Na, yeah, there, yeah.
Okay, Doctor, me that's it. My question no, and it's a meaning me a late comer. Meaning say what can for what they are. Me wo colleagues be a honoma, and I say me nipa bi o mo ben me a. I don't know. No matter say that obey any bia no fa ne nsan kan ya. Ohun ni say enye clean. And I
Yeah.
say and that ye. And also so no betimi aka say omo was a problem bia na. So I didn't want who say why that obeka say won ye ya on so no ade ne sasa be fa so. Or the next first one was we feel relieved. Say, oh, okay, I feel yeah, okay. Yeah, and it cause a problem more money or more around because quite is a 10 be our own one. I will say, what do we do on say baby? Will be I in your come and on any the years swing, and then we'll track here now. Until I say, Juma.
But short motimenka.
I'm patcho. I feel the more that
Yeah, good. But I think say indeed it could be, but there could be other things too. There are a lot of other disorders there were many disorders, there were social disorders near there. Your friend is saying Sebe, or no crabes massacre, but on one may still 9 way. It could be say OCD say emiti the criteria na yakana. Onunya obsession no na your friend is saying onunya obsession no na adena shen some me and some you relief. Where you relieve your best be any BMA na would the cycle continue? Into it could be say any OCD, but it is also a type of mental health disorder. Like I said, no mental health disorders, no egumbebre. In fact, studies just say about 50% of the people in the world are likely to have a type of mental health disorder. In fact, some even states that at any point in time we can have a little bit of mental health disorder. Until it is not a good thing, and people like that and so if possible could be talked into it saying yeah but also on so that's a problem many a time on tiasa crumble issue or just say when I want your DNA and say it becomes a problem. So yes, it could be OCD say if the person keeps on repeating any other idea. However, no, it may not have to be OCD. It could be another type of mental health. It could be another type of mental health disorder and so but definitely, I think there's something wrong in Tiano de Ewahosa and Bacho. Because Obi Oha ne boxes. I tell you, Obi Tony Macron on Tony box entry. I mean, I Obeko a friend is saying, and I say, on chance, yeah, send your opeso ranging chance, not like never be brave. So there are a lot of issues many a time it is mild and it is no problem. But then a hard dream with then it becomes a challenge. May that say. Rema.
Man, after nursing it off it, after patcho, you prefer, secretaries, but the announcement more patcho mum from rain. Prefer, now the last week and last week, or the
Hello? Yeah. Yeah. Auntie, I think say to put everything together now, mental health issues they are far from us. Once I say oh I drink or no, there could be a problem. Say you who and I say obi eba in China am I answering nipa no sebi am I can say nipa no abodam enya abodam. It is a stigma say jai. Na ye encourage ye ho. Yen so say be a touch ma ye hwe na ye behavior bi enye ade say ye normal la. Yen tu ho na ye seek help. Number 2, we believe say yankopon e wo tumi wo bibia so, including the physical body and the functions of the mind. Yemfa bibia and share nensa. Pain no some of the things I had dream bebre na this anxiety, stress that But Bible na say be anxious for nothing. Inti yemo mpaye nso bebre na yenkaika ye ho because sometimes men na menim ye koso mitrim. Una onim ye koso utri. Metimi asre, ye betimi ato yemasa, but probably it is not going well up here. And you can't do much about it. Empire and I'll bet me about alpha home. To address the final thing, um, say nipa ye hu nipa sense wa ebede na etimi amanage one yenye omo ho abotre and possibly say omo ye man people we can just drag them I inform call the healthcare center na omo doctors ni omo kasa so oye u superior bi and as obi a we adamfo bi nso a obetimi if a atunefo and I said there could be ways obetimi a share a small tract be on our website be some of these things are there so so and we could have nicer ways to encourage them. They may be going through a lot of stress. Indirectly, we just give motivational words to them. Unim ye koso ono be no an sister when you say be koso and all you say and sometimes depending on say your ben ni pano ni ada bit my catch and say ebia sadie where me hui sanity na the person probably open up na odi no aboa no akọ the right place ni perfemo in the spiritual side on the spiritual side so I'm say bebo umpaye na yet to be mensa na we should be nice to each other. I think say sometimes if we are nice to people they break down barriers. Before 1 minute in cancer be there've been a lot of people suicide at times, a lot of mental health issues cause so and sometimes some of these people want to hang on enough say nipa bakumpo epo mo asema sometimes they want to wait and see say empo nipa bakumbi be friend no et say no say okay obiti asia or drain ho sometimes they want to and there've been a lot of stories obi catch and say good morning ti wan kokune ho bi I mean the truth is we don't know a lot of things going on in people's mind it could be so year on any damn back so ukunu and so still untimi ehu nti a lot of things beyond the nipa but kakra na ebe ho no into one among now let's be kind to each other let's be nice to each other because we don't know what people are going through now need try to so yemfa be an so hia mensa me say obehwa yankopon enka ye ho na ene homedan so onhira yen but you say yebetimi ayemo mpaye na yenhira bibia so to me right that was say wadom wachechre yen wama yati ase say nipadua yi bibi etimi etechima wo ho na mmom wo ne yaresafo hene ti yɛsrɛ ɛma yɛ ho sɛ OCD anaasɛ any form of sa conditions bi ɛwɔ yɛn mu bi so a mpo yɛnim a srɛ sɛ wosa ɔma yareɛ homeda yi ma na ɛnka yɛn sɛ yɛn ne yɛn nuanom adwumayɛfoɔ abusuafoɔ sukuufoɔ a kristo srɛ sɛ homa mmɔbɔ na tene ne akyea nyinaa kɔso no hyɛ yɛn ɛnɛ da yi na mpofa yɛagya Jacob agyapadeɛ ɛhyira yɛn ɛnɛ ɛne da wadom ti amen